Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. If you are watching this on replay, we are getting ready to review a video by Dr. Orion Taraban. His channel is called Psych Hacks. And no, the alerts are just now going out. So anybody that is a regular probably will not see this. I am going to play the intro, and I'll see y'all in a few minutes.
It's been a one, and I need someone so high.
Wash away the toxicity.
With my brush on, and the candles moving, and the candles moving, and it's time for you to join the current. And we go again. Critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friends. Burning the clouds and hoping never.
Hustle and grind culture is another version of it. I can sleep when I'm dead. You'll be dead.
It's showtime. Come in and have a drink with the whole crew. Come on then, join the panel or draw from the chat. Do it how you wanna do. The misfit thoughts keep the whole chat lit. And soon you'll be a part of it too. So come back again, my friend, or we'll come find you. Here we go again.
What's up?
Critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Burning love and hoping never. If it does, oh, we'll be back again. Now let's make one thing clear. Because of you is why we're here. You give us life, you give us love. That is why we want you give to our heart. Come and join the show, cause we need you to grow. So pull up a chair and share with us all of the things you know. Here we go again. Critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Burning in love and hoping never. If it does, oh, we'll come back again.
And like the song say, hey, don't, I will come find you. Easy way. Or the hard way.
Amazing!
I got my own platform. If I got something to say, I hit my live button, ho.
And did, as I be hearing, and did. Welcome to, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Critically Drinking. I'm your host, Rashawn. And again, you know we like to try to set the bar pretty high for conversation, conceptualization, communication. That's what we strive to do every single stream. That You'll Be Dead part is hilarious, man. Because we say a lot of dumb stuff. We say a lot of dumb stuff, and yeah, we rehearse it, we practice it. I can sleep when I'm dead. Huh? Anyway, what is up, Don Frank in the building? I know a lot of y'all are working. I've come to grips with it. I know a lot of people are working at this time. I hate first shift. I can't stand first shift. I hated it with all my heart. Second or third shift is much better for me. But all y'all first shifters, I appreciate y'all for lurking, listening in, and catching the replay. Definitely appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much. As far as we are mentioning support, again, thank you for everybody to help me meet the monthly goal to keep the little subscriptions up. Because y'all know I like to play a lot of YouTube videos. I like to not have commercials in them. As long as we are paying the subscriptions for the stream, and I will donate the rest of my time. I'll do 3 to 4 streams a week. I'm here for it. But I'm going to bring content that I think is thoughtful, the things that I like to think about and listen to from people I like to listen to that have ideas. There are plenty, places where 10 people are up on a panel talking to each other and not really getting anywhere. If y'all want that, more power to you. But y'all kind of know what y'all gonna get here. I think I've established what I'm about. So I appreciate all of y'all to still rock with me. Because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the thoughts. I'm here for the thoughts. But today, everybody, what is on tap for today is A video from Dr. Orion Taraban. He has a channel called Psych Hacks. He talks a lot about psychological perspectives of the gender dynamics between men and women, dating, relationships, all that good stuff. A video that I had in my watch later, I started watching it and I was like, oh shoot, this will be some good information. I really think a lot of guys, I try to say this stuff myself, but sometimes people get tuned out to your voice. I come across a certain way, and I know that. I'm a little instigatory. I'm a little antagonistic. I say stuff inflammatory sometimes, but other times I'm kind. Either way, I know everybody doesn't hear what I'm saying, and that's cool. Maybe the white man's ice is colder. Maybe you can hear this man say this, and it'll make sense because he says some really great things about the dating space and how men need to operate. And a lot of red pill spaces are saying these very same things, but I think men take it and twist it to a way that suits them. Confirmation bias, one of the distortions that we were going to talk about yesterday, but didn't. But it did come up in the video I played. So I'm going to pull that up. I don't like to waste time. I don't have a heavy lead up on this, but I am going to start this from about the 2-minute mark in because he gets ready to ask a question. And I'll just pop in here and there. Of course, the video wouldn't play. Of course. What's up, Nova? What is up? I'm not sure why. Why? And I shouldn't even be having a problem with this. See? Best laid plans of mice and men.
Highest status alpha men who were the...
Hold on. See, you try to do something every single time. Every single time.
In the Tactical Guide to Women, which for if people don't know about it, it's a book about relationships for men. Basically, it's about how to vet women that you're bringing into your life. And one of the things I came across when I was writing that book is the fact that the FBI, at least on their website at the time, went through the steps that they use to vet agents. And it's a very long process. It takes a couple of years. And it happened to be what I think about in terms of vetting a potential partner. If you're looking for a long-term partner that you want to build a shared enterprise with, you need to invest that time to get to know what they're really about. And that's what the FBI does. They spend a lot of time watching people. And that's part of vetting potential partners too.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Real quick, because my internet was acting up for whatever reason. But he had asked a question. It was like a little cute little joke question. What does dating women and the FBI have in common? Or dating and the FBI have in common? So the guy was saying in his book, it was an anecdote from his book. The guy on the left, Dr. Sean Smith. And they're talking about vetting. Choosing better, as the title of the stream suggests. I thought this was an interesting concept because I kind of fell into the whole red pill thing, and they talked about, 90 days. I do believe 90 days, you should kind of know if that's somebody you would take seriously. I think that's perfectly reasonable, 90 days to know if you would even take that person seriously and to have the character to move on. If you don't think that's somebody you would take seriously, date seriously, be interested in a long-term relationship with, to be able to communicate that and move on. I think 90 days is plenty of time. But as far as somebody that you would want to spend your life with, I think what they're saying is completely reasonable. Having a year to 2 years to observe and get to know somebody in earnest and honest, I think that's reasonable as well. Because I think that's one of the reasons so many of these marriages are failing, because these people really don't know each other. And you kind of find that out. I've been playing this other doctor guy. He's not a clinical doctor, but he's somebody got a doctorate. I've been playing a lot of his clips lately. And in all the relationships, you kind of find out that the person didn't know themselves and the person didn't know their partner. And then they didn't understand the kind of life that they were building. So there's a lot of misconceptions because people don't spend the time. We're so desperate for, I guess, sex, affirmation, confirmation, relationship, somebody to be the big spoon. We're so desperate for all these, somebody to fold my clothes. We're so desperate for all of these functions that a person performs that we're not learning who the person is as a human being. So I do believe 2 years is a plenty of time. Now, what you don't do is put 2 years into each person. So I'm putting these two concepts together really quickly before I let them go on. Spend 30 to 60 to 90 days tops getting to know if you would even take the person seriously. If somebody you would take seriously, spend up to 2 years getting to know who they are and what their character is and who they are when things are not going well. Who they are if they lose a job, who they are if they lose a family member, who they are when things are not going the best. That's what you need to see. And you typically can't find that in 30 to 60 to 90 days.
To me, and this is just a couple of years for a career. If you're vetting for a potential long-term partner, that's for life. That's an even bigger commitment, in my opinion, than just something that you're going to be doing for money.
Indeed. Yeah.
As important as that is. I often say on my channel that men should exercise emotional discipline for the first 6 months minimum, and I get a lot of pushback on 6 months. And here you are saying that it can take years to adequately and appropriately vet a potential partner.
Well, here's the way I think about it. We go through, if you're in a relationship, a new romantic relationship, you go through this infatuation phase. And during this infatuation phase, puppy love, the honeymoon phase, whatever we want to call it, men and women both go through a period where their brain chemistry literally deviates from baseline. And there was a study a few years ago where they looked at serotonin signatures in cerebrospinal fluid, I believe. And they actually noticed that when people are infatuated, we're just seeing the world differently. We're not seeing ourselves the same. We're not seeing the other person the same. Not only are we not seeing them correctly or ourselves correctly, correctly being the way we normally see things, but we're also trying to present our best selves. So there's a lot of beer goggles going on while.
I want to pause that real quick because that's an important point, and we're going to just dive into it real quick. But not only vetting the partner, but allowing the woman to vet us. Yeah, each person should be vetting the other person. Each person, the man and the woman, the choose better. This is not a gender specific. I put men on it because they're talking to men specifically, but we also know women need to know who they're dating to and who they're mating with. So it's not really gender specific, even though we put a gender on it. Everybody needs to know who they're dating. Everybody should know within the first 30 to 90 days if it's somebody that they would take seriously. I say 30 to 90 days because everybody does not date at the exact same pace. Some people don't see each other every week when they date. Some people may not see each other for a week and a half to 2 weeks. That means you're going to probably want to spend up to 90 days getting to know if you're going to find out if you're going to, you might see them maybe 8 times in 90 days. Because maybe you're a slow dater. So that by 8 dates, you probably know 8 occurrences, 8 events, whatever you want to call it. 8 times around this person, you should know if there's somebody you would take serious. But if you're somebody that's seeing somebody every week or every weekend, maybe twice on the weekends, you should know within 30 days if it's somebody you would take serious. And then you spend a year or 2 to vet them out, see how they are in all of the aspects of their life. But you don't have to take the full 2 years. You may find out in 6 months, oh, that's somebody I can't deal with. I try to communicate with them and they tell me I'm making up stuff. They dismiss my feelings. You'll find that out pretty in short order if you actually communicate with people. That's why people need friendships too, so that sexual interactions aren't even a thing. You absolutely need friendships. That way you have people to spend time with that get to know outside of sex. That's very important. But what they are talking about is the infatuation. A lot of people get lost in infatuation. A ton of people get lost in infatuation. And then for the guy, was it post-nut clarity? For the woman, I don't know what it is. Something that he says or does that makes her feel unsafe or like a red flag. The red flags, man. There's so many red flags running around. But there's something that'll happen that'll let you know that this person isn't who I thought they were. That'll snap the beer goggles off that they said, or the infatuation that'll snap you out of that infatuation, or just spending enough time that the mystery and the newness kind of wears away because you get to know them for who they are. How is your relationship after that? How is your attraction after that? Those are important things to consider. She was never safe. She was just running on oxytocin.
While we're infatuated with somebody. And that period, according to the research, can last anywhere between 6 and 18 months. Some people say it lasts longer. Some people say it doesn't. But my thought is that you don't really see the other person clearly, and you're not allowing them to see you clearly while you're in that infatuated stage, while your brain chemistry is out of whack. And so you don't really start getting to know somebody on a meaningful level until that period ends. And that's when you can really start assessing the relationship, because that's when the real person shows up. And one of the ways to know that that's ending is the person becomes more three-dimensional to you. So you're not idealizing them and you're not being idealized so much. So like all the little things that used to be cute and charming, maybe they start to get a little bit irritating now. So that there's two sides to the coin. When you've come out of that infatuation phase, you start to see things more accurately. So we're talking years, really. If you want to
just pause again real quick. You can't possibly know someone is truly stable for a certain amount of time. Facts. It was hard dating vetting my girlfriend because we started long distance for years. Don't get me started on LDRs. Then in person, and that's when the vetting actually started. Yes, because you can't really vet long distance. You can't really get to know somebody's character long distance, how they respond in certain situations. You can kind of glean stuff from stories they tell you, but those stories are going to be shaded based upon their biases and perspective. Do you think it's an American standard? I'm asking because I think of arranged marriages. This is definitely an American, not just American. I'll say a Western. This is a Western issue. Western civilization, places that are first world, highly, whatever the term is that conceptualizes, like places like the UK, the United States, Canada, Australia. A lot of countries that have more Eurocentric value sets, people are free, that permissive cultures, places like that typically have this type of an issue. The vetting with the arranged marriages would be on the family and the community. So they would already have some semblance of knowing who the people were. The families would be vouching for that person to integrate them into, the other family. And there'd be a lot of social controls, because if you make a mess of the relationship, or if you embarrass our family, I mean, because these are status climbing hierarchies in marriages. A lot of times, people are kind of making sure that they're economically viable and socially viable. So with the arranged marriages, there's a lot of class involved in that. Typically, people that don't have anything typically don't bother arranging a marriage. So goat herders probably weren't out there trying to arrange marriages, but it works somehow, someway. Greetings to OG Patrice. Appreciate you coming through. Bree's like, facts. I do understand the parents vet them, but what if the person disagrees? That depends on the culture. If the person disagrees, but it's a highly controlled society and culture, then they go along with it because they know they have to. But if they have choice, they may refuse, but that may bring shame on their family or embarrass the family. I mean, there's all the dynamics are all across the board, and that depends on where you are. But as far as where we live, we know we're talking about this right here. Excuse me. Yes, exactly. It was helpful that I had met her a few times before our LDR. Yeah, a lot of cultures take courting and stuff really seriously, which can be like a flowery version of vetting, except you're vetting your male partner at their very best, not in everyday life. True. In arranged marriages, some other party has usually vetted. Yeah. And you probably, excuse me, in a lot of arranged marriages, they probably don't have to do a lot of starting from scratch vetting, because the families probably are in orbit of each other. So there's probably some knowledge of how the family moves and operates, and you expect that the person is going to move with the code and culture of the family that you're trying to integrate your child into, or whoever you're marrying off. So there's a lot more controls in those cultures as far as marital integration. So
want to spend a year getting to know somebody after the infatuation ends, that's a big chunk of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to be more accurate, what it sounds like you're saying is not simply that you're not seeing the other person clearly during that time, because that could go pretty much on either side of the fence. It's that you're seeing the other person as better than they are.
Right.
It doesn't seem like
you're
in that
motivated.
infatuation period people suffer from.
And what just again, that point that they had just made is like they talked about the representative really quickly, but not only the representative as the person being their best self, you're also, because of your infatuation, projecting higher values onto them than they would otherwise have. So they're more beautiful, they're smarter, they're funnier. You're not able to see their flaws, and you're magnifying anything that's actually good and virtuous, or I mean, so there's a magnification effect. You're idealizing, pedestalizing is language I've heard in this space, but you do that. So not only are you not seeing them for who they are because of the representative, you're also not seeing them for who they are because you're also projecting another layer of representative on them, what they represent to you. So they're projecting what they represent for themselves, like what I want to represent, my best foot forward. But then you're also putting your representative. This is who I want them to be. This is who I can see them in how I can see them in my life. So man, there's like a double representation happening. And that's what they're talking about right there.
This person that I'm dating and sleeping with is worse than they actually are.
Right.
The bias is always on one side.
Yeah.
Okay. I talk about this in my channel. I call it the crisis of disillusionment. And I think that most of that limerence and that feeling is really just projected fantasy. We know next to nothing about somebody except that we're attracted to them in the very initial stages of courtship. And I think the mind abhors a vacuum, and it tries to fill in the gaps in our knowledge base with exactly what we would want to find there so that we can be more in alignment with our attraction. And what generally happens, when people talk about getting over their exes and they're coming to terms with like the red flags that they saw but kind of ignored early on in the dating process, it's like most of these relationships that tend not to work out, there were, I think, a lot of signs for most people earlier on in the relationship, but people just chose not to look at them. But I think that if enough accumulate over time or something really jarring happens, then the projected fantasy shatters. And that's the crisis of disillusionment. And then you get to see the person in front of you, kind of warts and all. And it's only then that you actually get to decide if you want to have a relationship with that person, because you actually weren't even seeing who that person was up until that point.
Man, I thought that was an interesting point too. We're going to talk about the limerence real quick, and what happens when you realize you haven't even been dealing with the person that's in front of you because you've been dealing with the person that's in your head. That's another issue. That limerence is the state of being infatuated or obsessed with another person, typically experienced involuntarily, and characterized by a strong desire for reciprocation of one's feelings, but not primarily for a sexual relationship. There are a lot of people that are trying to force another person into a relationship with them. I'm going to find a way to make you love me. They're trying to win affections, buy affections, all that kind of stuff. So limerence is a heck of a thing. And again, in that capacity, you're probably not operating clearly. You're probably not seeing the person for who they are. You're probably not projecting who you are. You can't even set that as a foundation for a true relationship. So that's definitely a problem. You're not even seeing each other. You're making this stuff up. And yeah, at least in more Eastern cultures, if the family disagrees with the match, then the individual woman typically leaves them. It used to be the case that marriages in China had to be motorized by the parents. Notarized, okay. My bad. But there was something he had just said. Let me see. 728. God dang it. I don't know what's going on with this YouTube. Something about YouTube and sharing
in front of you, kind of warts and all. It's only then that you actually get to decide if you want to have a relationship with that person, because you actually weren't even seeing who that person was up until that point. And that's an interesting fork in the road for a lot of folks.
I think that's what I was going to say. Worldly, yeah. Worldly, yeah, we're being worldly. If you haven't, the issue with a lot of people, there's another psychological thing called sunk cost fallacy. People that know about poker might say pot committed. Others might say overinvested. I'm not sure what terminology you might use from your region, your area, from your background. But a lot of times, most people have spent too much money, too much energy, or too much time. By this point, by the time the infatuation is wearing off, by the time you've noticed enough red flags to actually no longer have that shine on them, by that time, the way our culture is set up, we probably feel like we've invested so much. We've introduced them to people. We've changed our social statuses in a relationship with. We started posting pictures places. We've started to integrate this person into our life, into our mind, to the way we think of when I see my future with this person. So we move so fast with relationships. I mean, for reasons, but we move so fast with relationships that by the time we're starting to see who the person is, not just for them letting down their representative, but for us letting down that projection of who we think they are or should be for us, we're already in a full-blown relationship, and then it starts getting messy. Because then how do you undo that? How do you tell people, well, this person's not going to be around? You've already introduced them. You've had to run to friends. I know I had situations with my friend groups where it was like somebody would bring somebody else around, and it's like people are forgetting the name. Like they're calling this person by the last person's name. What are you supposed to do with that? Or if the mom, like the last girlfriend, so they still talk on the phone. But now you're with somebody new. That gets awkward. So the intertwining of our lives starts getting really messy because we move so quickly. The thing I really wish I could get people to adopt, but I know they won't, is move away from casual sex to having casual relationships. Because we take our relationships very seriously and the sex very loosely. If we had casual relationships, we wouldn't be so quick to throw in together. We could move slowly. We could take the time to get to know one another, find out who each other are, not get all enmeshed and entangled, and not make a mess of our lives because we want to have access to sex. But the casual sex, that we need to be serious about sex. We're having poor outcomes because of our casual sex. Diseases, unwanted children. We need to have a casual relationship where we can be friends and get to know each other as human beings. That would be optimal. That would be much better. Casual relationships would be much better than casual sex. But, like Sim would say, who am I?
Yeah, there's this term, confabulation, that clinicians use to describe somebody when they are recalling something that didn't happen. And it's not that they're lying. So that this would happen, for example, after a brain injury where the parts of the brain are not functioning well, or certain types of dementia or alcohol dementia, that sort of thing, where the brain is physically damaged. And when a person is trying to remember something that happened, and remember a sequence of events or some piece of history, they will fill in the blanks with something that's plausible. They don't know that they're doing it, and it's not intentional. They're not lying. But this term confabulation gets attached to organic disorders and injuries of the brain, when really we're all doing it all the time. We're filling in blanks, just like you said. And so when you're in that infatuation stage, there's a lot of question marks, and you're filling it in with what seems plausible and also what is positively valenced.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's talk about attraction then, because it sounds like people have a choice at that moment of whether or not there's enough there to continue to pursue a relationship with the person after the crisis of disillusionment or after the limerence period wears off. Is attraction a choice?
That's an interesting question. I'll give you my thought, and I want to hear your thought. The emotional side of the mind takes a split second to decide that it's attracted to somebody. And it's the visual appeal, it's the scent, it's the words, it's the whole package, the whole presentation. And this is one of the problematic things about Tinder, is that so much of that gets factored out and you're only seeing an image. But the emotional side of the mind takes almost no time to know that it's attracted to somebody. The rational side takes a lot longer to assess the situation. And so I think that part of what people are dealing with in the dating realm is that it takes so little time to decide that you're attracted to somebody, and it takes so much time to decide if that attraction is warranted. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question, is attraction a choice? I think there's an involuntary component to it, but I also think that you can choose to some degree. But I'm going to stop there. I'll come back to my other thought in a minute. What do you think so far?
Thank you. Okay, so this is where I was saying. I had a little bit of a disagreement on that part. I do believe there are multiple components to attraction. I do believe that. I do believe that there's an involuntary part. That's what we can't control, that involuntary part. We can just control our response to that involuntary part, like how strongly we react to that attraction. But I do believe there's a rational attraction. I believe we've all done something like this, like where we've kind of there was somebody we might have been excuse me, the marginal. I talk about marginal attraction. I've been talking about, I'm working on that theory, the romance. The relationships of marginal attraction and need cost extra. I believe the extra cost, that extra benefit, the extra value that people are looking for, that's the rational. They said they don't believe that there's a rational, a rational attraction. There is, because people are making rational relationships. I'm not really attracted to you, but when I think about this and this and this that you could offer, that makes it more appealing. So people are rationally attracted. People are rationally attracted to what you offer, and sometimes rationally attracted to who you are. You can get to know somebody, and something about them will start to make more sense. Like, man, this person would fit really well into my life. Like, they would just, their personality, the way they carry themselves, it would just fit so perfectly. And they're not traditionally attractive to me the way I normally, like my mind. They don't get my heart fluttering. They don't put the bubble guts. They don't give me any of those. But man, when I sit there and look at them and I think about how we are together or how we fit, it's like, God dang it. When I think about it, I think I really like this person. And then that, that little weird tooth they got, you look at it like, what, that's kind of cute. That's that little twisted cute. I'm gonna start, I like that. But that happens. I've experienced it. I've seen it. I know it happens. So there is the involuntary attraction, but there is a voluntary attraction if you participate with your own thought process in relationship to other people. So that's the part I disagree with. And that point right before, I can't remember what they said because I was trying to respond to a message, but they make a lot of valid points. They make a lot of good points. I won't go back to it. I'm just let it play.
I think you're saying that attraction is not a choice, in the fact that the emotional mind can decide within a split second whether or not there's attraction. It makes me wonder whether you can be rationally attracted to somebody. That does not sound hot. That does not sound sexy to me. I think you can rationally decide whether this person might be a good partner for you, or a good husband or wife or mother or father. But rational attraction, I think, sounds like a paradox to me, or an oxymoron. But I want to bring this up because it's something that I see with the guys I work with clinically, and maybe you see this too. Sometimes, for whatever reason, men's attraction can be pretty predictably biased towards women who, for whatever reason, are just their kryptonite.
Yes.
Toxic.
When men become more aware of their patterns of attraction, it can feel like they're stuck between a really bad choice, where they can follow their attraction, which leads them to a dumpster fire relationship, as it has, dozens of times in the past, or they can move forward with a woman who rationally sounds like she might be a good partner, but leaves him feeling completely, bored or uninterested. And that seems like a really tough decision for guys. So if attraction is not a choice, are those guys doomed?
I'm just pause there because I really think that's the argument that also everybody makes about women too. They either go for the bad boy alpha or they go for the boring beta. That seems to be the same argument. I think we just need to make more gray people. We need to make more purple people. They're not red pill, they're not blue pill. We need more purple people with aspects of each. Most of life is in the medium. Most of life is in the gray, but we every now and then we kind of find ourselves pushing towards these fringes, these extremes, these polarities, these binaries, very black and white thinking. I think people need to stop adopting frameworks that don't serve us. The bad boy versus good guy, nice guy, that doesn't work too well. Society's rejecting it. The bad boy doesn't seem healthy. The nice guy doesn't seem healthy. How about integrating both the light and the shadow? How about incorporating both? not being as harmful, but maybe as interesting as the bad boy, bad girl, but not being stable, but not as predictable as the nice guy. You know what I'm saying? Some semblance of a middle ground. And people will skew towards one side or the other because nobody's perfectly centered. But I think our culture probably needs to push people towards being middle ground, but that's not where we are. We want everybody to kind of be extremes for probably some kind of criminal. I'm sure it's monetary. I'm sure it works. As long as there's two people that are fighting, warring against each other, we'll spend money to try to bash each other.
Well, I'll give you one framework to think about it, but I want to riff off something you said. Rationally attracted. Can you be rationally attracted to somebody? Seems implausible. Imagine trying to be rationally horny for somebody. That's not going to work.
No, so, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But I think the way guys approach relationships is so often from a standpoint of desperation
real quick. This is where Bree gonna throw something. This was the part. This is the part where I was like, oh, Bree's gonna throw something. If she's here listening to this, let me just let that play now.
It doesn't make sense. But I think the way guys approach relationships is so often from a standpoint of desperation, or if it's not desperation, it's at least I have to take what I can get, which is maybe desperation light, because that's maybe been their experience. However, they arrived at this point where they'll look out on the landscape and they'll look at all of the possibilities and they'll zero in on the hottest one. And like you said, so often the hottest one to them is their relationship kryptonite, rather than different way to approach it. And this is where cultural structures like religions come in handy, where if you change the paradigm a bit, where you're not looking out on the entire landscape and choosing who's most attractive, and this applies equally to women too, that you are clear on your own values and you're clear on what you're building in life. And so you look at a smaller subset, you look at the prospects that actually align with what you're trying to accomplish in life, which is a much smaller group. It's not the entire landscape, it's a small group. And then you choose the hottest one there. And this is some place where, like I said, if you're part of a structured religion, this seems to be easier for people that
structure. Yes. And what he's saying, and I think this is the paradox of choice and the choice paralysis that everybody's facing. Because right now everybody's like looking at the entire landscape. They think everything's a choice. I'm choosing from everybody, 100% of the adult population of my preferred gender and sexuality. Don't. That's too much. That's why the people with the inboxes that got 10,000 messages in them, the women that have those overflown that they can't even respond to them all, that's what they're stuck with. You open yourself up to everything. And men, they go for the hottest of everything, like the IG baddie. Everybody wants the IG baddie. No. First, and here's the first problem. Here's the precursor to what he said. Because he said you have to have some sort of structure or value system of your own. Find the group of people that align with that. Your goals, your outcomes, your lifestyle, your values. Find those people. That's a smaller group. That's like, instead of saying the world is my oyster, find a store and shop within that store. Find what you want from a store, not the world, because that's too much to shop. But the problem is, and here's where we fail, you have to have a culture. You have to have a value system. You have to have goals. You have to have a lifestyle. You have to have something solidified within yourself to be able to identify it within anybody else. You can't find your tribe if you don't even know your vibe. So that's one of the biggest problems that we have right now as far as dating. Men, women, whomever, they don't even know who they are. So you're looking at everybody because you're just as confused as anybody else is, as opposed to knowing who you are, what you like, what you need, what you want out of life outside, absent another person. What do you want? Who are the people that want similar things or things that align with that? You may not want the same thing, but if one person wants kids and one person doesn't, you don't want to keep putting yourself in the spaces where people want totally different things, because when you date them, you're going to keep running into roadblocks. It's really silly, but we don't practice anything to be smart. We all want to be and are pressured to be individuals. And I think many of us equate individuality with being extreme on one end of the spectrum, whereas many individual people today are the middle. I like what you're saying, because individuation in our culture is not me being a person all to myself with my own thoughts, feelings, operations that are different from everybody else. We've taken individuation to be someone who stands out because we exist in an extreme place in opposition to another group. So our individuation, yeah, I like that. Our individuation is not truly about us. It's about who we're standing against. I'm not them. I'm an individual because I'm not them. But then you go find a group that you are a them in, so that y'all can all be individuals together, which is, it defeats the point if you all think the same thing. You can think alike, but if you don't think for yourself and accept whatever the group says, well, you're still not an individual. I don't think, I think people need to learn what individual means. You have a community. You can be a part of a collective as an individual, but you have your own individual properties. You should be distinguishable from the group that you find yourself in, but have enough similarities that people can see those as well. But that's interesting.
That have that structural framework, because everyone around them, or at least the prospects around them, they basically share the same structural framework, the same similar values and that sort of thing. So they're somebody who is part of a religious community, and I'm not pushing religion, I'm just using this as an example, that somebody who has that structural framework, they've already, in a sense, if they buy into that structural framework, they factored out everybody else. And so they're only looking at this small group of people who would be a good fit for their life. And then they're choosing the most attractive among that smaller pool.
Yeah, well, what about so much more beneficial? That's why I'm not big on religion, but I believe that people need to start finding structures that have culture. Like, we need templates. People need templates. All the freewheeling, loosey-goosey stuff that people are doing right now, we see it's not working. It's not working. Everybody being able to make every decision for themselves is overwhelming everybody. I'm seeing the outcomes. We're all feeling the outcomes, but very few of us are being honest about it. I'm going to have to point it out. I'm going to have to connect some dots for people. But people are tragically breaking because our society is not set up to create healthy and whole humans. You have to do that work yourself. You have to create your individual yourself. You have to create your wholeness yourself, your completeness yourself, independent of any other human being. That's what we need to do. And we need systems that help manufacture whole and healthy people. The country's not going to do, the government's not going to do that. Right now, religion is not really even trying to do that, which is a problem. So we're going to have to develop some sort of template for us that do want to be better, do better, live better, whatever. That's what we're cobbling that together, but it's not in any type of form. You can find self-help materials. You can find self-help books. You can find self-help gurus. You can find self-help ideas, including myself. I have not compiled things together in an ordered and structured way. So that's something that needs to be done. And that will create, a code and a culture. That will create a structure. But that's something that we're going to have to take on as people. It's like how we see creativity as being whatever is on the frontier of discovery. If every creative is searching the frontier and the traditional is neglected, the traditional becomes novel. Absolutely. That's the ebb and flow. That's the ebb and flow, which I'm learning. It's just another cycle. It's another cycle. It's another like weather pattern. Life cycle, weather pattern, everything goes in a cycle.
About the rest of us who don't have a tight-knit religious community to rely on, because I think that's a diminishing number, especially young people in this country.
Yeah, it's probably the majority of people that don't have that tight of a framework.
Mm-hmm. So more difficult to find the set of people who already seem to more or less conform with your values and direction in life, and then choose among them, right?
Yeah. And that's where I think, that's 100% correct. And sounds like it's a case for you. Certainly was a case for me. It's the case for most people. But if you have a sense of exactly what you're trying to accomplish in life, if your values are buttoned down and you have a sense of the purpose that you're moving toward in life, and you have a sense of what it is that the reason that you even want a relationship, then the people that will fit within that become more apparent to you, and it becomes more apparent who the people who won't fit within your values, your purpose, your goals in life.
Okay, well,
and I like that point as well. It's easier to identify the people that you do pair well with when you identify who you are. It's hard to, like, if somebody were to say, find me something to eat. Very vague, very broadly. Bring me back something to eat. There's a million things that you could bring them back. Some they might even be allergic to the point that it might kill them. Some they just wouldn't enjoy. Some would be all right, and some they would absolutely love. The chances that you're going to bring back something that they would absolutely love and enjoy is probably slim to none. So if you're looking out on the dating prospects and you don't even know what it is that you like, what you're allergic to that will kill you, what you don't like, what's okay, what's kind of meh. If you haven't done the work of identifying what you particularly are suited for and what's particularly suited for you, you're not going to have you're going to have a broke picker. I think that's what JP calls it. I think it was JP. We have poor pickers. We have poor pickers because we haven't done the work of knowing ourselves. The more you know about yourself, the easier it is to identify comparable things in another person, contrasting things in another person, or incompatible things in another person. But you need to have an awareness of what those things are, and you typically glean those from yourself and the people in your immediate family, life, influence, school, work. You pick up on patterns from people, you learn those, and you can start to say, that's what I can deal with, that's what I like, that's what I don't like. And then once you know that about yourself, then you can incorporate that into your choice mechanism. And that's one of the things. I'll give an example. I grew up as a liar. I lied. And I lied because I didn't like hurting people's feelings. I lied to, like, people pleasing. People pleasing, that's the term people use. People pleasing. I lied to people please. What I found out was lying to people please, like saying I would do something and not doing it, was bad character. It set people up for failure. They're expecting you to show up somewhere. You don't show up because you never wanted to be there anyway, but you said that because you wanted to put a smile on their face. Well, once I got a taste of that myself, I was like, oh, this is not good. I don't like when people lie to me. Well, I didn't lie. I really wanted to be there. And I was like, oh, this is what I do. Oh, this is that thing I do. Okay, I don't ever want to do this to anybody again. So because I had that experience of people pleasing, people that lie, people will say things that they don't mean to not hurt you, to not be confrontational. Because I learned that level of, I'll say, honest dishonesty or earnest dishonesty. They're being dishonest, but it's coming from an earnest place or a place of not trying to be harmful, but it's harmful to you. The impact is harmful, but their intent is to be helpful in some weird way. I know because I did it. I learned that that's not something I can tolerate. I learned that people that cannot communicate honestly and directly are incompatible with me. So when I dealt with people and I heard their communication style was dishonest, intentionally or unintentionally, I knew that was something that would put me over the edge. So I chose not to deal with those people. I could be friends with them only to the capacity that I never had to rely upon their word. So we could associate is a better. I can go say I was friends with those people. We could associate, but only to the point that I was never dependent upon their word. Yeah, there's nothing worse than allowing others to find out who we are before we do. When we're less conscious of ourselves than others, we make ourselves very vulnerable to others' poor guidance. Absolutely. They say it. Somebody else, this guy, the guy on the right, Orion Terabin, he said it in a different video. But if you don't build a structure within and for yourself, you're going to be subject to other people's structures. Even if that structure is unstructured, even if that structure is chaos, you're going to be subject to other people's structures. That's another thing about people that come out of parents' homes that did not provide structure. You go into the world and you seek structure in other people because you don't have it. So you might go to the military and find structure. You might go to college and get structure. People go to gangs and get structure. You find a mate that provides structure. You go to a job and look for the structure there. You're going to find structure in some kind of place if you don't have it. You're going to seek it, or it's going to seek you. There's an energetic balance of unstructured and structure that kind of happens. Another way we would say it or see it is if you're not disciplined, people say this to their kids all the time. I have to discipline you before the world does. I've got to teach you before the cop. I have to give you structure before the world gives you structure, and not all of their structures are going to be beneficial for you. So there's a dynamic in the world. If you're unstructured in a world that's built on structures, somebody's structure is going to be imposed upon you if you don't have one of your own.
Okay, well, that sounds like Frame. That sounds like a guy knows what he's about. He knows what his mission or purpose in life is like. He's potentially extrapolated to some degree a lifestyle for himself. He knows what works. He knows what doesn't work for him. He knows what he wants. He knows what he doesn't want. And then he's trying to find a fit, which on some level suggests that he's inviting the woman into his frame, into his life, into his lifestyle. And I think that's a really good way for men to approach dating. I think especially younger guys in their 20s, you talked about the desperation. I think it could even be this sense of women almost like
here you go
as a savior, like that a good woman will like lift him out of his loneliness or despair or be his muse or give him purpose. Have you seen this, Sean?
Yeah. One of my friends on Twitter actually posted this yesterday. He posted about being.
Now I know there is a lot of that and I've talked about this a few times. I know men we're socialized, conditioned, whatever words you like to use. There is something about our culture that tells us men that we gain manhood by being able to conquer women, by that conquest, that if I can get women, I'm a man. So being able to get the woman, I mean, because even Kevin Samuels talked about the woman as muse. Men draw a lot of motivation and inspiration off of the ability to attract and acquire women. There's something there. I'm not saying it's healthy. I just know that's what it is. From middle school on, the pursuit of the puss is a big factor. That's a big thing. You're getting shamed if you're not getting any. You're getting talked about. It's a dynamic that exists, and we need to be able to figure that out in some kind of way, because men definitely feel like they are being saved, even if they can't articulate it. There's a salvation. My better half, she saved me from myself, or she saved me from my worst impulses. At some point, men are going to have to work on becoming whole for themselves, with themselves, by themselves, without the need for a woman to scoop them up. There's going to have to be something as far as men that we do to get our emotional states in order, to get our psychological states in order, so that we're not raging, we're not doing these mass shootings, we're not doing, all the violence. I mean, there's a lot of things that we get into because of poor thought patterns, poor emotional states. And it can't be just some woman chose to love us and that cured it. It can't be that simple. It can't be that simple. We're putting too much weight on women to be our saviors if we're not our best selves, unless a woman loves us. So that's something we're gonna have to work on. We may not ever get rid of that completely, but that's something that we have to do better than, well, I'm gonna do anything. I'm gonna do anything because I don't have a woman. I mean, I'm gonna be an incel. I'm rage shoot. I'm rage quit. That's not okay. Not smart enough to vet myself. Men definitely conditioned for that. Conquest in general, really. Yeah, and it's not just women, but it's really heightened with women. Because if a man gets a great career, but has no woman ever, like if he found out there was a man who lived like Warren Buffett, if you found out he had never been married and been a virgin his entire life, we'd be like, there's something about the validation of a woman that we're trained to.
Being at a cafe or a diner or something, and he was sitting next to a man who was in his 60s, and the man in his 60s was explaining to the waitress that his depression had finally lifted because he finally found a girlfriend who would date him. And my friend's point was, some guys never learn. And the lesson that I think my friend thought this guy should have learned was that women are not the key to curing your depression. That's got to come from you, which I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that I think this is part and parcel to idealizing or romanticizing women or relationships, that it's my missing piece, or it will give me the reason to get out of bed in the morning. It will complete me. It will give me a sense of self. I'll feel like I'm a person of value because this woman who I've invested with a patina of even godliness, who knows, saintliness or virtue, has deigned to look upon me. And in the context of that, I now feel like a man. I now feel like I can conquer the world. And I think what you're telling me is that it makes more sense for guys to kind of like become men on their own terms and then invite women into their lives further down the road.
Yeah, you and
I just like that part. What? Nova bought some sangria flavored weed. Okay, buddy. But I really like that part. I really think men do have to find a way to become or feel to that whole of masculinity, that whole of manhood, the thing that tells us that we're not men, that we're not masculine, whatever that voice is, anything that is telling us that we have to do to satisfy the deity of manhood, I think we need to reject that. We need to find a way, a healthy way, to assign manhood to ourselves based on some metric. You know, we don't have rites of passage. Our culture does not have that. So we just kind of turn 18. But what do you do that lets everybody know that you're a man? It does sound delicious. And beautifully animated speaks. Hello, hello. So a lot of men, because they have no way to prove to themselves are men, women have been assigned that rite of passage. You're a man when you're able to have sex with women on your own without buying, not transacting. When you're able to talk yourself into some woman's drawers, that's the status that it was conferred to me through conditioning, through socialization. That was the thing. What is up, Chef Shapino, dropping in with work? Man, I appreciate that, man. I know a lot of people are working and lurking. I appreciate everybody that take the time to listen in or come back and hit that replay. Definitely appreciate all that love and support. But again, I really do believe that men are going to have to define terms outside of another person satisfying that. Because they talked about a guy his depression being cured by a woman. We're going to have to find ways that treat that wound or that hole within us outside. You know, you can't cure yourself with cooch. Don't treat yourself with tatas. That's not a sustaining treatment. That's not a sustainable course of treatment. Stumbling on my words. Sustainable course of treatment is not a woman. She's a person. She has her own wants and needs, and you can't use her to cure your ills. Might make you feel better, but It's not sustainable, because if you're so unwell that she had to cure your depression, the moment the infatuation leaves, she's probably not going to get the type of energy that she deserves, because you're going to feel cured. Yeah, people can't fix it. Yeah, it's a distraction. Exactly. They can't fix depression. But that's what people will. They'll distract themselves. It'll be another sugar fix. It'll be another sugar pill. You get that little quick boost of energy, that little energy of meeting somebody new. And that's all it'll take. And until that wears off. But in the meantime, you're just hurting people. To fix yourself, you're toying with other people. Mika Marcel in the building. Appreciate you for passing through. Good looking out. Play this again.
You and I have a mutual friend colleague who talks about external sources of validation. Ken Curry's who I'm talking about. And he talks about external sources of validation, and it's a path to destruction. You can't have your source of validation depending on the moods of somebody else, or their approval for today. It's got to be that you're on your path, and someone else can join in. They can walk next to you if they want, but they are not the source of your sense of self. Because if you outsource it to them, they can revoke it at a moment's notice. This poor guy at the diner, the 60-year-old guy, girl's going to break up with him, and he's going to be right back where he was, feeling depressed.
It's good to be in a place where folks aren't clutching pearls. See what I did there? Yeah, I just did a little segment yesterday inside the jealousy to talk about her real quick. I think she's an idiot, but I don't understand why everybody's so up in a tizzy for her. But it's interesting to watch. But to the guy's point, and Beautifully Animated Speak said it. What happens when that person removes their interest? Do you go back into a depression? Do you go into a worse depression? Maybe because it'll validate that feeling of insecurity, that feeling of worthlessness, whatever it is that drove you to depression because you didn't have a person. If that person leaves you, that's why you can't leave it up to somebody. You can't leave your emotional and mental wellness up to another person. It can't be on them. Number one, it's too important to you. That cannot be the way you treat yourself. That cannot be. It's unhealthy. Stop it. Get some help.
Well, does that suggest that men should maybe wait longer to begin dating or potentially to get into long-term relationships? Because I think it kind of takes longer for men to get their feet under them. Women have just shorter timelines. They mature faster biologically. They seem to mature faster emotionally, and they do have their reproductive window. So they grow up a little bit faster than a lot of guys. And if it would be good for the man to know what his purpose is and to have his lifestyle extrapolated, it would make it easier to attract a woman who would have goodness of fit with that purpose. What do you think about the movement that guys sort of like spend their 20s grinding or getting their shit together before they really even begin to examine women?
Yeah. Or serious relationships. But maybe there's something to the fact that, I don't know the exact numbers, but it seems to be across societies that men in long-term relationships, men tend to be a little older than women, something like 5 years older on average. Maybe that's too high. Maybe it's a little lower than that. But maybe there's something to the fact that men do take a little bit longer to get their feet under them. The expectations are different for men. You are expected to go into society and produce more than you consume if you're going to carry a man card, meaning you need to be in a position where you can provide if you're going to be respected. You need to be in a position where you're contributing something to society. And women have their expectations too, but it's not that. It's a little bit different. And it takes a while to establish that. And so maybe that's why we see an age difference in long-term commitments.
Let's talk about this, because that's certainly the cultural expectation for men, or let's say masculinity, is to be the provider protector. And one of the,
I think it's going to go into the feminism portion, so we're about to stop in a little bit. But I wanted to talk about that. Gosh, man, my brain be farting lately, y'all. I must be an old fart. Men don't learn to feel then the structures we've been charged with building have no hope of accommodating many of the complex feelings in our societies, which is a recipe for social disaster. Absolutely. The structure has to accommodate men being able to feel, which is I only got halfway through the video, and I'm only going to go halfway through the video. But really quickly, let me backtrack. Like I lost a thought. I lost a thought real quick. Give me a second. And if we can't accommodate those feelings, then people seek to exploit those feelings will feel like, oh, age gap dating.
Lower than that. But maybe there's something to the fact that men do take a little bit longer to get their feet.
Men take longer to bake. Okay, now I have heard things about cognitive development is like a year or two behind in men or boys in development. I have heard that, and I know resources is a whole thing as far as age gap dating. Women liking older men. I mean, that's the thing. But what I don't like, and I'm just talking this that stuff I don't like. Shout out to Chief Keef. The stuff I don't like is when people tell men. I know Kevin Samuels did it. A lot of red pill to push off relationship until you're between 30 and 40. It is so impractical to tell men to not pursue a relationship until you're 30. You are going to tell me that you want them to have no semblance of romantic and sexual intimacy with the woman until they're 30 and 40. You know how weird dudes get when that happens most of the time? Now no. You need to be developing a relationship muscle. You may not be able to sustain, but you need to be going through the paces of a relationship in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. Yes, you needed to have like cross-gender friendships as well, but you need to be developing those romantic muscles, man. Don't let those atrophy because dudes keep get all your stuff in order. You know, make sure you own 12 properties and 6 cars. Make sure you have abundance so you can bring a woman into it. Don't listen to all that. You need relationship, communication, negotiation. All those are skills that you work on, that you develop. Don't delay development of relationships until you're 40 because that means you're going to start at 40 like you're 18. You're going to have the same lack of ability to relate romantically and sexually if you wait until you're 30 and 40. Your start time is just where you start. How far you push, you're just later in the game. Don't be an emotional virgin. How about that? Don't be an emotional virgin. You don't want that. You don't want to be 30, 35 an emotional virgin. Never having let anybody in there. You don't want that. Trust me. Don't do it. Bad advice from anybody. I don't care. I don't care how many degrees anybody has. Anybody that would tell you to wait until you're 30, 35, 40 to have a relationship with a woman, get out of here. Get out of here. Send them to me. I'll tell them to their face. I don't care. All that internet gangster stuff. I'll get internet gangster for people telling men to wait until they're 35 and 40. Don't do it, y'all.
The feet under them. The expectations are different from men. You are expected to go into society and produce more than you consume if you're going to carry a man card, meaning you need to be in a position where you can provide if you're going to be respected. You need to be in a position where you're contributing something to society. And women have their expectations too, but it's not that. It's a little bit different. And it takes a while to establish that. And so maybe that's why we see an age difference in.
Right. No, but that's probably partly why those 40-year-olds go straight back to dating 20-year-olds because they can't even relate to the 40-year-olds relationship-wise. And you hear them say that. They say that the 20-year-olds are less of a challenge. It's less of a challenge because you haven't developed the skill to relate to an adult of your own age. That's why you're looking for less of a challenge. Let's think about it with anything else. Like anybody here that has a car. The first time you got behind the wheel of a car, you were a car virgin. It was new to you. It was a challenge. If you've been driving for 10, 20, like I think I've been driving for close to 30 years. Driving is no longer a challenge because I've developed the muscle and the experience. If you delay your beginning of experience, you're not going to be good at it just because you waited until you were 40. You don't get a magic 30 euro or a magic I have $100,000 in the bank relationship card. That doesn't happen. You cannot buy relationship skills. Like, I can't you money and I now have experience. That doesn't work. Don't let anybody tell you that. That's probably a major reason why they like the 20-year-olds, because they can relate to them, because they haven't developed emotionally as far as relationships. They can't carry a relationship. Most young people would be enamored by the stuff that you've accumulated. You have a lot of toys to play with. I'll play with your toys. That keeps me captivated. You have a nice car. This is a nice house. This is so exciting. Oh, a boat. Ooh, we're going on an airplane. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yes, you have a kid. You went and found yourself a 20-year-old because you can't hold a conversation with a woman about anything outside of sex or your toys, because you waited until you were 40. You waited until you were 40 to pop your emotional cherry. Why would you do that? Don't listen to anybody telling you to wait until you're fully materialized professionally to have a relationship with a woman. That's the silliest thing you could do. Has anybody heard Lolo Jones talk? Like, she's the Olympic sprinter who's a virgin. Don't wait. Don't. The first time I drove my car alone, not the first time I had driven, my brakes stopped working. Ooh. And you need to know how to deal with that stuff. Even in a relationship. Even in a relationship. Because you'll be in a relationship and all of a sudden your emotional brakes will stop working. Like that limerence that Bree was talking about. You will not be able to, I can't stop thinking about this person. Or that may not be the emotion that can't stop. I can't turn off my anger. Or I can't turn off my sadness. I can't turn off my grief because of something that happened in my life. You need to learn how to deal with when your brakes are broken in a relationship. You don't learn that by waiting until you're 35 to start a relationship. You've got to drive. You've got to drive a relationship to experience driving, to become a proficient driver. You have to be behind the wheel to learn to drive. It's that advice that irks my soul. You can buy some relationship skills. You can buy relationship information. I can't give you the skill. You only get the skill from practice. Practice. We're talking about practice. Don't put off practicing relationship until you're 35 to 40, just because you want to have enough money. That's not it. Which is why a lot of women, when they're successful, they say they talk to these 40-year-old men and the men still can't carry a conversation. The men still aren't interesting. They have money, but it's not enough. No one thing that everybody complains about women want is enough. They say they want a guy that's good in bed. That's not enough to keep a woman. They say they want a guy that can have a conversation. That alone is not enough to keep a woman. They want a guy with money. That alone is not enough to keep a woman. They want a guy that's over 6 feet. That alone is not enough to keep a woman. A lot of things may get you in the door, but none of that. Well, no one thing is going to keep you there. No one thing is going to keep you there. Do not let any muscle atrophy. Don't do it. I mean, I noticed that we are coming from a fat guy. I've let a lot of muscles atrophy. Shut up. But do not let your emotional, if nothing else, don't let your emotional muscles atrophy because somebody told you to wait until you're 35 or 40 to have a relationship with a woman. Don't do it. Don't do that. Facts. Those emotional breaks need to be developed, especially for men, because of how easily our chaotic emotions can turn to destruction of others and ourselves. And I was just listening to a guy the other day, and he was like, everything my wife says, I'm angry about. If she criticizes me, I'm angry. Or if she just tells me what's going on in her life, I'm angry because I don't know how to fix it. His emotional response to everything was anger. He didn't know how to turn off the anger. He had no breaks for his anger. Communication from wife meant anger. That's not healthy. That's not safe for her. That's not healthy for him, because all that cortisol, all that anger, that's eating him up on the inside. Because he didn't develop. You weren't there when I was shooting in the gym. That's right. But you did give me that 3-pointer form. That's right. Balling. That's right. You know, I heard preachers speak like that. Wait until you're 35 or so to date, because by then a man will be established. Then when they're ready, get a young girl like 18. Because who? If you have a guy that has never held conversations with women, like that's why Bree's advice about having a friend, having non-sexual friends, at least would help you, because then you're still able to maintain relationships with women. Now they won't be sexual, but at least you'll have the ability to have conversation, to hear a woman's thoughts and feelings. You'll be able to be emotionally available. At least being in the friend zone with women, if you want to wait until you're 35 and 40, would allow you to develop some muscle. But there's a particular level of emotional resilience that's needed when somebody is having expectations of you to perform and putting their life on your shoulders. That's different. It is different. But you're going to be emotionally stunted. Yeah, you're going to be emotionally stunted. So don't stay an emotional virgin because some dude told you to wait until you're 35 to talk to women. Don't do it. I don't care if there's a doctor in front of his name, PhD behind his name. Don't do it.
In long-term commitments.
Let's talk about this, because that's certainly the cultural expectation for men, or let's say masculinity, is to be the provider protector. And one of the, let's say, one of the promises of feminism was that it would be good for men.
Because
just like women might have been restricted to caregiver, nurturer roles historically, which might have been restrictive or repressive, that men have also been relegated to these restrictive and potentially repressive social roles of provider protector. And the promise of feminism is that both men and women can experiment with non-traditional gender roles. And what do you think about that? Like, would that...
Man, now hold up real quick, because I got to play this, man. Forget all that, man. We patriarchy over
here. Be oppressive. Be oppressive. Eh?
That's right, man. Forget all that feminism crap. Forget all that. We done with that. It didn't work. It didn't work. All right, my bad.
Behoove a man to examine?
Which part of that?
The promise of feminism,
emotion sales,
is that
I love
it could be good for men too, because men, like women, have been restricted and or repressed by their traditional gender roles, in this case being a provider protector, on the other hand being, let's say, a caregiver nurturer. And I would say that in the last, several decades, women have really run with this sort of gender role liberation, and they're doing very well socially. Yeah. Like, as you know, they're graduating high school, college, postgraduate at a significantly higher rate than men. I think for the first time in history, women under 30 are outrunning men under 30. They seem to be thriving in a lot of traditional metrics of success.
Oh, whereas thriving. Did he say thriving? Did he say thriving?
And how are your kids coping through everything? And how are you and Corey doing?
Everything, I have to say, it's great. Of course, you have good days and bad days, but there are definitely more good days than bad days. And the kids are wonderful. They are thriving. They're happy. And, Corey and I, we're doing great. I talk to them every single day. We tell each other we love each other every single day.
At the end of the day, it's, are they happy? Are they thriving? Are they growing? And I feel like that is what is most important.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
Yeah, she's thriving. The kids are thriving. What is new growth? New growth. Something got you to Something got you to What happened? What happened? What I say? In traditional metrics. No, but did you read the article yesterday about the specific terms used? Check the Discord. You missed the whole. I missed the whole statement. What I miss? Oh, yeah. No, women are thriving. Yeah, education and earning. Yeah, I'm with that. I'm saying that's good. I don't have a problem with that. See, I'm not even triggered. See, you're projecting your expectations of me. What is that? What distortion is that? Mind reading? You're assuming that you know my emotional state, which is wrong. I'm glad that part of feminism. I'm actually glad. I'm glad that women have choice. That's all he said. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even triggered. I'm cool with that. Bree, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. That's the part of feminism I like. Women having choice and opportunity. I'm with that. That's great. What I'm saying is it's thriving. Yeah, thriving. Yeah, it's that word. Now that word bothers me. Thriving? That word is a trigger. But actual feminism, the real true feminism, women having choice and opportunity, that doesn't bother me at all. What I think though, what I was going to say about them in specific was that men and women being able to step outside of traditional gender roles and to explore sounds great in theory. It sounds wonderful. The problem is we have a society that reinforces traditional models. So you have guys talking about they want traditional women and women saying they want traditional men and people that are going to pay 100% and they're going to take me out. So we're still hearing, we're still being trained and repeating. Faith comes by hearing. We're still conditioning each other that we want traditional models while living in very non-traditional times with non-traditional people. So my issue is not with traditional values. My issue is not with modern values. My issue is that we don't know which one we're actually practicing. And from one moment to the next, people aren't aware enough or astute enough to know when they're slipping into modernity or traditionalism. I'm just listening. I love how you break it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah. So when I say I'm for patriarchy, I don't really mean like the way things were. Women can't vote. That kind of silly stuff. No. I want everybody to have a choice. And I want the society to bolster and serve everybody. I don't want anybody to be served over anyone else. I'm more for equality. Feminism right now, the way people do it, feminism today is practiced the same way Christianity today or pro-blackness a lot of times today is. It's a lot of lip service, but people don't really have any values or structure behind the things that they're saying. Feminism, red pill patriarchy, all that stuff is like a facade for a shell of a person who has no true values that they're hanging anything on, which is why in conversation, when you try to catch, like, where are you? When you try to position where these people are, they move around, they wiggle around, kind of like a kneecap. You know, it's loose. It's kind of there. But if you actually put your hand on it, it moves because it's not anchored. It's floating. It's got some cartilage, just kind of keeping it in a semi position, but it's not set. It's not like a bone. They don't have hard, rigid values. These people's stuff shift. I mean, I don't even know what to call it. These people's values, anybody that has like an identity, like feminism, the red pill, the this, the that, the other, if you really investigate them, you find that they really don't know the values, don't believe the values, or don't practice the values. That's the typical. That's the baseline. Not saying that there aren't devout Christians, not saying that there aren't people that are supremely feminist and believe in the ethics and values and equal opportunity, but not like forcing equal outcomes. Not saying that they're not pro-black people that go to the wall for social justice. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that the majority of people espouse values that they aren't aware of. Oh man, what was it? And I'm use AR. When we were having that debate or that conversation that day, he was like, man, you read the Bible more than I do. And he's a Christian. Why am I reading your book more than you? There's a problem there. And it's not just AR. I was teaching Sunday school at a church as a non-Christian because I was willing to read and teach about the Bible more than they were. This is your thing. You should be passionate about this. Nobody should have to come to me to be the teacher for this. I don't even agree with it. Where's your structure? But that's my problem with current feminism. That's my problem with current manosphere red pill. That's my current black pro-blackness. That's my problem with current Christianity. That's my problem with everything right now. Because everybody's taking on an identity without the subsequent values or lifestyle. They don't want the culture. They just want to they want the clothing. They want the hashtags. They want the outfit that says, you know, I'm this. But they don't want to live it. What did Umar say? They don't want to work. They don't want to sweat. They just want to be comfortable. Kid that didn't read the book for his report energy when they speak. Yeah. You were always that kid. But yeah, they're getting ready to go on into feminism. I'm not going to slip into feminism here. Feminism, we do know as it's being practiced in this society, the push of inclusion for women. That's great. Women have been allowed to step into alternative gender roles and expectations. That's great. Society does not allow for room for men to express the same way safely without as much shame and stigma. We're just not there yet. I don't know how long it'll take to evolve, but we're just not there yet. Men don't feel safe. Men don't feel comfortable. And we also reinforce the traditional models. We reinforce unhealthy models. Things we know don't work. Things that we know hurt us. We'll still push and promote. We'll reinforce it. We saw Mandrill talk about it. When he had LGBT members on the panel over Black Men Unfiltered, he got a lot of backlash, personal backlash. People started calling him gay slurs or asking him if he was LGBT or he's the gay whisperer. We still reinforce negative models of thinking to our own detriment that are inconsequential, because if you have no designs or desires on being gay or transgender, their matters don't really matter to you in the first place. So you policing another man about who he speaks to is strange to me. But again, that's as far as I'm going to go on I'm going to stop that video there. I didn't go past the 30-minute mark because Bree went live, so I don't know what they actually slipped back into. But that's it as far as choosing better to that I've heard. I'm not going to try to skip and find a place where they stop talking about the feminism. I know for the next 10 minutes, they're on gender roles and feminism. So since nobody came up, I'm going to go ahead and let that rock out at 90 minutes. I appreciate everybody for coming through, hanging out with me. If Mandrill is the gay whisperer, then I'm the Pope. Listen, Nova, I'm a little concerned, though, because, see, you want to be one of these pious holy figures like the Pope. And I'm going to tell you, these pious holy figures seem to have pious holy fingers. They're a little nasty, little freak nasties. I heard, there's been making the rounds, that little Dalai Lama. I wouldn't want to be anybody's spiritual leader right now. I don't want to be, I could never be a youth pastor. I could never be a youth pastor. Even if somebody wanted me to be a youth pastor, I could never take that title. These titles are tainted. Dalai Lama, Pope, youth pastor, man, nope. In room with kids, that's where they always end up. I don't want to be near nobody's kids. I don't even like it when the kids play outside. I got one kid, and I'm going to introduce everybody to my child. I'm so proud. Everybody. Y'all see my baby? You going away, Roku? Bye-bye. All right, that's my little baby. That's my new child. So, that's where I'm at with it. Let me see. And when my kids, big ooh. So that's the only kid I want around. Is the child from Mandalorian. I know a lot of y'all probably don't watch that. And y'all gave me the blank stare. Forget y'all. But listen, I appreciate all of y'all for hanging with me. I do have a stream at 4 o'clock, but unfortunately, it's only for Nova. That's how that worked out. Greetings, Von Bryant. He looks just like you. Oh, I know. Look like that. Looks just like him. I know. But next week, Tuesday, again, I'm reiterating this again. Tuesdays for sure. I will be here. Unless I'm in the hospital or dead. I will be here every Tuesday. The time may change. But Tuesday, right now, 3 p.m., I'll either be here with Bree. If Bree's unavailable, I'll be here. That's my commitment. Beyond that, these other streams are going to... Stop giggling, Grogu. Stop. It's not funny. I said I'm committing. Beady eyes. God forbid. I'm starting to see that a lot of groups are fighting for dominance. Yes, more than equality. Everybody is competing with each other. Thanks for this one, bro. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for checking that out. Tuesday again, I'll be here for sure. Anything else? I may be back here Friday between 1 and 3:30 if Bree is not doing a her midday chat. If Bree's not doing her midday, I'll probably do something on Friday. I don't know what. Otherwise, I'll be back over the weekend. I'm kind of in the space where I kind of enjoy streaming right now. So I'll be here. I'll be popping up. And again, y'all supported the stream so much. I'm going to make sure y'all get y'all's dollars worth because y'all want to see me? Cool. Y'all want to see concept? Cool. I'm going to try to have some conversations. And I'm going to try to have I owe at least JP, I owe a family game night. So we got to have a family game night. I want to do a chill stream where I'm like asking questions because I got some like funny questions, kind of like that one I did the other day with that I stole from Nisho about what superpower you have, and then we add that condition onto it. I want to do some of those too. I want to have like drunk questions, like a drunk question stream. I want to ask like them high questions that high people ask. I want to ask those kind of questions one day, and only do that. That's all I want to do. So we're gonna have some more streams, and we're gonna vary the streams because I get bored doing the same thing. I never get bored with this though. The videos and breaking down stuff that never gets bored. If that bores y'all, I'm sorry. That's me. But Tuesday for sure, Friday maybe, and over the weekend I'm almost certain I'll be here. Probably on Sunday, probably not Saturday. I'm supposed to be oh no, I'm not going over my homeboy's house. I'll probably be here Saturday. So I hope y'all all have a good day. I did play an intro. So I'm going to hit y'all with Umar. Say goodbye, Grogu.
Who the fuck are you? Excuse me. I only debate my equals. All others I teach.
Need all the hundreds and fifties, let's get it. I'm with this shit, so let's get it. Killing it, leaving nobody no addicts. Boxer like I'm Lenny Kravitz.
You have cooned so bad, my brother, that they damn near need to put your face in the dictionary next to the word coon. And I don't mean no disrespect, my brother. White man play you like he play Sega. He play you, this is you. He ain't even got to be in the hood. He got this. He played Negroes like this. But they not speaking up against your oppression. I wish another coon, boot-licking, shut-jiving Uncle Tom will get in my face talking about we need to be patient.
We gotta sweat. Y'all don't want to sweat. Y'all don't want to sweat. Y'all just want to be comfortable.
It's none of your concern. You don't have the right to ask me where I've been. You don't have the right to know what I was doing. You messed up, and I took a break. And guess what? The next time you mess up, I'm going to take another break.